Hey, folks, pick up the phone and start dialing. All right.
Yes, pick up the phone and start dialing. That's right. It's been 10 years since Wolf of Wall Street has been around, and given we're months away from approaching Killers of the Flower Moon, we've decided, that we're going to revisit Wolf of Wall Street because it's been 10 years also since DiCaprio has done a film of Scorsese. Now that they're getting a Killer of the Flower Moon, I remember being crazy about Wolf of Wall Street, but now I'm kind of thinking back a little more to it. I still remember a lot of it, but there's actually a lot now. And even in this segment, Mike, like how we thought of the subject, is Wolf of Wall Street dumb or ingenious? There's a lot that goes with that, but there's also still its levels of brilliance in a way as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, The Wolf of Wall Street, to break down the plot, it's a movie about this guy who joined Wall Street and he came in there during like a huge financial crash. So he's trying to find his way to make, another job. So he finds this one job where it's run by great director Spike Jonze. And I almost said Spike Lee, but that wouldn't have been the right Spike. And Spike Jonze is selling these penny stocks to poor people where they're not going to get any money. But the person selling it is going to get rich by people investing like $2,000 into something like that. So from there, he learns a method to call people and scam them into buying garbage. And by doing that, they all become rich. And this movie is sort of like it's a celebration of excess, and it's also a celebration of bad behavior. It's one of those Martin Scorsese movies where you see it and everyone in it is just absolutely deplorable.
And no matter what bad decision they make, it's like their bad decisions only grow to be worse. Then yet again, they still find success. And even in the failure, they find a way to BS out of their BS that requires cleaning up, which is where I go crazy with this movie, especially of how creative it goes, but even creative to the extent where I'm just thinking, how the hell is this going on? How did this get associated? I found myself when I watch this with a ton of questions, like, how is this associated? How is this associated? But it's truly because the Jordan Belfort character of Leonardo DiCaprio is purely a madman who only gets madder over the more ways he finds keep getting wealthier and wealthier. And that's where drugs and quaaludes come into the equation, which is what fuels this Martin Scorsese pick.
Well, yeah, and drugs aren't a stranger to other Scorsese movies.
Not at all.
They had drugs in Goodfellas and in
The Departed.
The Departed. Yeah, it's in a lot of Scorsese's films. Because he likes to study. Casino. He likes to study. Yeah, because Sharon Stone's character is like a coke fiend, from what I remember, and she couldn't get away from her pimp, played by James. Oh, damn. What? James Woods.
That's right. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Casino, but I kind of want to revisit it. I want to go on like a binge of revisiting some Scorsese picks for Killer of the Flower Moon, but that's besides the point, kind of thing. So
yeah. Well, I mean, but when we're talking about Wolf of Wall Street, unlike Scorsese's other movies, this one's kind of like a pure comedy. It's not really meant to be taken as seriously as Goodfellas and stuff like that. Although we do kind of take Goodfellas with a grain of salt, because that's a movie about mobsters, killers, but yet we like them because of the mise en scène that Scorsese puts into his movies. Like when you see Henry Hill taking Karen around the Copacabana. The camera just stays on a singular shot, following them around as you're just kind of like this girl getting wowed by, oh my God, I'm getting put in this nice club. I'm going through the back kitchen, right into the front, right to where my seat is, and I am being treated like a queen. This is amazing. And that's what that scene was trying to capture. Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Scorsese is all about kind of, even with Wolf of Wall Street, a majority of the movie was improvised. The dialogue was, and he encouraged that for this movie. I think he realized in every moment, given everything's already going bonkers and crazy, like he's like, these are the right people for improvising in many of the epic, chaotic scenes.
Well, it made the scenes kind of feel more naturalistic, especially when, especially with the relationship between Leonardo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill. You kind of get the idea that these two kind of sleazeballs really like each other. because you have DiCaprio, who's the educated one, who has basically
And
was going to be the guy on Wall Street, who
Jonah
basically
Hill's basically the intern who doesn't really know shit.
he
Just
doesn't
kind
know
of like the
shit.
coffee guy. Better
Yeah,
way to say it.
he doesn't know shit, but he ends up kind of becoming like the VP of the company and then running it. So he probably knew enough, or he just learned whatever Belfort tells him to do on the page. And that's one thing that was a little unclear to me. Like, do you think in real life it was that simple, where like he would literally just give people a script and they'd read it, and then they were able to just scam people, and people just automatically bought into their bullshit?
I don't think so, because I know there's been discrepancies about some of that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, I feel like that was like just a tactic to get the film going, even though there was scams. But it kind of, I feel like it kind of the film to get more to its narrative and it's to be the typhoon of an adventure that it is. They obviously jumped right to the get rich portion right away and
Mm-hmm.
didn't really do a much more. They weren't there. There isn't really the thoroughness of the earlier background of Jordan Belfort. There is briefly, but very, very brief, because it wants to jump in. I mean, you can even see in the beginning of the movie where DiCaprio's character is already mixing sex and drugs, already taking all kinds of medicine, not stopping, and is always not really caring about what his bad behavior is. He acts like his bad behavior is just one natural thing after the other, that he'll never be impacted by it.
Right. Well, I mean, the ultimate lesson that, and I'll just throw this up here. Boink, spoilers, you've been warned.
Yes, you've been warned.
The ultimate lesson that happens at the end of these movies is that they learn that they can't just get away with whatever they're doing. Henry Hill ends up having to give up all of his friends and fellow mobsters because the FBI was cracking down on the mafia. In Casino, when everything started falling apart, you had Robert De Niro's character. We'll just call him Ace because that's what they called him throughout the whole movie. Ace, he was based on a Jewish mobster or gambler who like worked with these mobsters. He ended up leaving the mob life while the other mobsters died, but he kind of came out unscathed. But he didn't learn much in the end. I think Jordan Belfort, he lost his wife, he lost his kids, but he didn't lose his money. And when I watch that, I kind of think to myself, are we glorifying these people? You're like, shouldn't there be more of a punishment on Jordan Belfort for what he's done?
Oh, totally. I mean, like now to even look back at it kind of thing. Like I just love kind of how it's like even in there's this moment, and I'm sure many of you are watching this movie know this moment. Scene where it's like, oh, let's celebrate with Quaaludes. Then it's bear in mind, this is already way into the film. They've already done drugs in multiple scenarios, and it's not kicking in. And there's a moment where it's like, oh, it's not working. Maybe we built a tolerance after all these years. And I'm thinking, oh, you built a tolerance, all right, but is a tolerance enough of what's about to hit you? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like that
Well, they
tolerance
keep
alone.
taking more, and the more you take, the worse the trip's going to get.
And that tolerance alone, honestly, didn't last him in every error that came around. Like, I could just BS his way out of it. Like, it came in increments, literally. This movie, the destruction of people falling apart comes in increments in the most, to me, hysterical, clever, and mischievous direction.
Well, the body movement DiCaprio did when the Quaaludes hit him, and then he was in the golf club. Yeah, and he's just trying to crawl out of there, and he rolls down the stairs. He puts his
my
foot
friends
out
always
the
do that. My friends tell me I'm always good at that impersonation with the phone. It's like, then going to the car, kind of thing where he tries to go to the car, can't even open a damn door because it's like the door goes up.
Yeah, it's like one of those DeLoreans from Back to the Future.
I'm at a country club. Get him off the phone. What the hell? I can't hear. And I'm just thinking, oh, Jordan Belfort and his career is just going in the direction he does not want it to go in right now.
Right. But because, I mean, that was his low point in the movie.
Yeah, but that's where the brilliance kept going. It's because the film had you keep thinking one thing, then it meant the other so much.
Right. Well, I mean, that was probably the highlight of the movie was the Quaalude scene. When they finally kick in, and then Jonah Hill and Leonardo DiCaprio fighting each are fighting each other pulling the phone apart. The phone whips itself and hits
FBI,
DiCaprio in the face.
what did you do?
Yeah, because I mean, it's essentially in that scene, Jonah Hill calls up the guy from Sweden who's basically laundering their money,
Oh,
and
and his phones are wired. That's what he
yeah,
realized.
and their phones are wired, and this guy's high on Quaaludes, talking to this banker guy, speaking absolute nonsense because he's fucked up out of his mind.
Oh,
But
this whole movie is fucked up among many segments. That's where the joy of it is. I mean, hell, we talked about this. Benny fucking Hanna. Why, Lord? Why?
yeah, so you were trying to explain what Benny Hanna did to his company.
It was well. Here's what it was, because the Steve Madden, the shoe company,
Yeah.
was like one of their partners. They only had all their problems and whatnot. They found out that the Steve Madden shoe company signed on with Benny Hanna kind of thing later on, where he's like, and in that moment, I think the Belfort and DiCaprio's performance is the explanation of that is if they didn't keep falling in these plateaus of their disasters, they would have been much more successful. But no, it's going to companies that Belfort viewed as below him, kind of thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny. When I think about this movie, Scorsese always likes to make movies about terrible people, but yet he makes them so relatable.
He
and
does.
And I think the way he does that is he knows how to incorporate music, editing, composition, all the necessary requirements to make a good movie and makes them work. A lot of his films have narration, which it's like I wouldn't allow more movies to have narration unless it's done by Martin Scorsese, because when other movies try to do it, it sounds like it's forced in there.
And out of all the films Leonardo DiCaprio has done with Martin Scorsese, I feel like Leonardo DiCaprio has always been the one who's able to possess the very ill-fated characters in a very direct way, and the right way, even though I'm not really sold on one of the performances of Scorsese. But I mean, I like the movie.
Is it Gangs in New York?
It's more of I'm sorry if people are going to be offended, but I was thinking back at it, was never so sold on The Aviator. I like Departed and Wall Street much more than The Aviator.
Oh, those are fighting words. I love that. I love that movie, and I love DiCaprio.
It was more the role and just thinking back to it,
right.
like the different roles of DiCaprio,
Right. I mean, you don't see Howard Hughes. You see Leonardo DiCaprio when you watch that movie. But even so, I think he kind of captured his neurotic behavior really well in that film.
Yeah, and that was kind of a rush decision because originally it was supposed to be Christopher Nolan directing that, but then that plan failed.
With Jim Carrey starring, which
would
have been, I don't know how that would work.
I think there'd be a little too much typhoon Jim Carrey for that to work, and it would not go in a direction that Christopher Nolan would want, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know.
But back on Wolf of Wall Street, though, and Martin Scorsese, in terms of directing, though, like I want to go a little bit of trivia with this movie, kind of thing. So, like, the movie was banned in 5 countries, and a lot of that was due to its high sexual contents. The film was banned in Malaysia, Nepal, Zimbabwe, and Kenya. I'm thinking, wow. So seeing someone as hot as Margot Robbie is obviously not right for other countries.
And that was actually her decision to do the nude scene.
Yes,
they said that she was gonna wear a robe. They gave her Scorsese gave her the option to wear a robe. She said, "Well, she's using her body to get ahead, so that's what I'm going to do in the scene."
And also, the film broke the Guinness World Record for the most swearing in one movie. 81 expletives equal to 3.1 swears per minute.
Really, there's not more swears in Casino?
I think the numbers are kind of the same in a way.
Yeah.
They're but because their conversations are much different compared to both, kind of thing.
Right. What else you got?
But I mean, also, the actors crushed B vitamins for scenes that involved cocaine, and Jonah Hill claimed he had to be hospitalized after inhaling so much because he claims it gave him bronchitis.
That's right. I did read that.
So I'm just thinking, well, they obviously want to stay in tune, but they also don't want to be drugged out of their mind. But I'm surprised they didn't even want to take the risk of real drugs, especially for how people like DiCaprio take his roles so seriously.
Take his girl so young.
And that was probably the other thing. For all the women on set, you got to be careful,
Don't bring your daughters.
No, I saw this, I think, on Christmas Day when it opened. That was even, and I was old enough to watch it, but watching that with your family, oh my God.
No, I the whole time I'm watching this movie though, I'm thinking like, oh, these guys are sleazebags, blah blah blah. But I'm like, if I could get rich like that, maybe I do the same thing. I don't know. Have you ever thought like, yeah, these people are not relatable, but at the same time, like I'd probably do the same thing Jordan Belfort did. Did that ever cross your mind?
In a way, yes, but I'm just thinking, like the things Jordan Belfort does. Like I was once asked, what do you think is the most hysterical thing Jordan Belfort does? That's stupid. And a lot of people kind of don't remember the scene, but a majority do. It's the scene on the airplane where it's like, I had to tie you. What? Why? Then it looks back. It's because he's just like putting his hands on everyone on the airplane, going crazy. It's like, dude, you have a drug problem.
I will not die sober.
Get the fucking loads.
Yeah.
But, oh, we'll be fine. A few broken dishes, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, when you hold this movie up to other Scorsese films, do you think he was the right guy for the directing job of this particular story?
I think he was to do something different, and I feel he could still establish a strong storyline. Because bear in mind, this movie was running towards the 4-hour mark, actually. You know,
well, it was 3 hours, but his movies have gotten longer since.
Killer of the Flower Moon is going to be longer than this.
3.5, right? Like it's going to be like The Irishman, which was also 3.5 hours.
Oh, I remember seeing The Irishman. It was like an 8:00 screening at the time, and I'm thinking, can this be any freaking earlier? You know?
You would get out of there by 11:30, I think.
Yeah, that was worth it though in the very end. But I just hope I can watch Kill of the Flower Moon very early. But even a Wolf of Wall Street. Like the film is just like, like even to have that much, like the representation of one to have so much money, so much power, so much drugs, so much money in stock, so much connections. It's like honestly, the error it has is honestly, it all just can't keep happening overnight. All is revolutions, much of which, and I repeat, much of which bound to have its small errors because a lot of times he finds himself in dramatic irony of where it's like he thinks he knows it all, but he truly doesn't, like who's on the inside, who's betraying him,
Yeah.
And the money laundering, all that shit. It's a whirlwind of Jordan Belfort's success, but his plateaus that he keeps ignoring, especially without, look, for crying out loud, he acts like crashing a helicopter on the golf course is not a bad thing.
Well, he doesn't care. He has so much money, he can get away with doing whatever he wants.
You didn't have to deal with the golf course people. Oh my God, you had to deal with the golf course people too. What a great tragedy, honey. Oh my God, you probably had to pay them in cash.
He probably did. I don't know, but the thing that makes this movie work is that it's a comedy. Like the whole thing, like doesn't take itself that seriously. So when it doesn't take itself that seriously, like to be honest, I don't care if the movie's factually 100% correct or not. Because
I agree.
I go to a movie to be entertained. Sometimes I'll go to an art film not to be entertained, and I go there for like a serious viewing. But most of the time, I want to be entertained. And this movie, although it's 3 hours, it doesn't feel like it's 3 hours. It's fun the whole way through.
It's a movie that truly soars with revolutionary laughs, revolutionary writing, unexpected jokes, unexpected hidden gems, like the fish scene we were talking about.
The fish bowl. Yeah. You watch your little fish bowl?
On New Issue Day?
Yeah, on New Issue Day! We show you what happens to the fish around here, and he puts eats the guy's fish. That is a little weird to bring your fish bowl to work, though.
Yep. Don't talk to me about shop. You don't know shit about shop. If you want better words, I'll chop your credit card in half. But even the taglines of this movie I just found encouraging. I was 20 when this movie opened, but even then I still find the words encouraging to this day. Like even that speech where he's like, if any of you think I'm superficial or materialistic, go get a job at fucking McDonald's, because that's where you fucking belong. Like words like that have a weird inspiration for many people to this movie.
Yeah, it's kind of a get your ass off the couch sort of mentality.
Pick up the phone and start dialing. Deal with your problems by becoming rich.
become telephone fucking terrorists.
Now let's blow this motherfucker out of the park. And they did. Oh, they did. They did more than they should have.
Oh, they sure did. But going off my notes here, do you think there's anything wrong with Scorsese glorifying terrible people?
Um,
Or
I think if I had to think, it's representation at the very end. Sometimes I question, like, okay, you're obviously making Jordan look like the good guy, and then yet again, it's like everyone else is suffering just on his behalf, but
yeah,
you're giving him the easier end of the deal for probably political reasons and whatnot,
mhm.
kind
I
of
mean,
thing.
the thing is, like, he makes these people likable, but that's because you kind of need to in order to follow the story. You need to make Henry Hill kind of like this likable mobster because you're going to follow him for 2 hours, and you have to see through his point of view why he would be in the mob. Same with Jordan Belfort. You see through his point of view why he would rip people off, you know, and those reasons. I mean, one is because this guy can get rich fast.
He tried to bribe a cop.
Yeah, he tried to bribe an FBI agent.
Start throwing him hundreds of dollars, throwing lobster at them. Oh wait, he probably can't afford them.
Fun coupons, right?
Yeah,
But
but yeah, yes,
what you have here is you have a story about these guys who don't live the normal life, but they're happy they don't because in the end, by doing the wrong thing, they're living the best life that they can. But then when they realize that there's consequences for doing those things,
they
that
lose it.
high, yeah, they lose everything.
And especially when there's the moment where Belfort, where Jordan is told by his wife that she wants a divorce, and she tells him all the legal ramification. That makes him goes berserk because he thinks it's my money, yada yada. But then it's like, oh, the law can take you down too, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it
You know,
can, it can. But what is like Martin Scorsese saying about American society in this film? He's saying that we are materialistic, that we basically think about money more than we think about people.
I think he is. I think he's proving a point where it's like if someone could be a philanthropist in the context of a con artist of success, that people thrive off of that, and they will. And it's because it's like an addiction. You can't stop doing it if you keep being successful at it. And
Yeah,
even if it means making risks to be successful. I mean, look, Jordan Belfort takes risks overseas. He gets way too much money, doesn't
yeah,
know where to hide it, doesn't know what to do with it. So much money where he's even having sex with it in his bed, literally, with
yeah,
his wife.
yeah. And when we see that, we kind of think to ourselves, "Oh boy, I would love to have that."
Yeah.
Just like Goodfellas. When I'm trying to think like of a scene where they kill somebody and you're like, "Yeah, that prick got it."
Oh
You kind of
yeah.
have those moments in Goodfellas, but
Oh yeah. I
you
love
you you get you get why these characters are the way they are. You get that Jordan Belfort is drawn to money because it gives him lavish things, and to say, "Oh, I'm not materialistic, I wouldn't do that," is bullshit. I think anybody, if they were in the Stratton Oakmont's position, would probably do the same thing. But don't quote me on that.
Oh, I agree. I mean,
But
it's such a film that is like even though he says you think I'm superficial materialistic, between those two things, he kind of is materialistic. Because look, how he started even making money was like in a materialistic form,
mhm,
like realizing how the tax deduction is worth a lot if he actually sells. Then he realizes he could sell, you know,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know. But then
absolutely.
remember Matthew McConaughey's like cameo in the beginning. It was like
Mhm.
very brief, but it was still kind of epic, you know?
Oh yeah, of course I remember. He was in the beginning of the film, and he kind of set the tone for what Belford's life was going to be. Is
Oh,
you're going to be taking
and the
drugs.
way he talks is so sharp. Be like, what do you do? Oh, what do you do if that guy is going to take his money and run? What do you do? No, you don't. You dismiss it. No, you get another brilliant idea, a special idea. Because if we don't, we're making commission, motherfucker, kind of thing. And that's where he
Mhm.
brings the cocaine up to him and all that shit. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he set the stage for what Jordan's life is going to be,
Yeah.
which is, it's basically like you're going to be working all the time and you're going to be taking drugs so you can keep up with your work and so you can get as much money as possible so you can afford nice things,
Oh yeah.
such as more drugs, but that, but when he met him, that was an important scene because he kind of was the mentor to set the stage for the rest of the film.
Oh
And
yeah, and
yeah,
also and
now
also just with, I mean, even thinking about the roles like by Robbie and whatnot, kind of thing, you realize too that Belfort took advantage of her too in that film. As
well, yeah, and he punched her in the gut in it, which was real woof.
oh
That's when he was high on
oh
coke and trying to make a kid.
puts a camera in the kids' room when they're both in there, and then there's that whole thing where she's like, "You don't get any of this," like a
Yeah,
sexual thing. It's like, "Oh, look
where
who's
she's
watching."
spreading open and she's saying she's wearing nothing but short panties, you know. But
And I'm
he's
like,
not
oh,
gonna get
this dude's
any.
insane. This dude obviously is one who will honestly get back at you no matter what it takes. Kind of thing.
Well, I mean, there's a reason that millionaires are millionaires. They're willing to do shitty things that most people aren't,
Oh
you know.
yeah,
And
definitely.
I
But
mean,
I mean, it was just, but also just the way of how it's like. I just like how it's kind of calm, then crazy intense again, calm and crazy intense again. Like the scene where she throws the water on him. She throws 3 glasses of water on him. You
yeah,
know.
yeah, and that seemed to be the thing. It always seemed to be like a building setup and punchline in the movie. Like I could take the example of when they first talk about Quaaludes. You hear about how they're so effective through DiCaprio's narration. They talked about how they used to be on the market and then they pulled them off because people started taking them and not staying asleep because it's a sleeping aid. But
Mhm.
when people didn't use it to go to sleep, they ended up abusing it and it would give them a pretty kick-ass high. So there, you got your setup. Now, your punchline is when Margot Robbie comes in and Jonah Hill is so high he's jerking off to her. that Now that's like the grand payoff of that scene. But there was a lot of scenes that were sort of structured like that.
Oh, there's a lot of scenes where the nudity kind of goes above and beyond, and sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. But it doesn't matter if it makes sense or not because this is a typhoon. This is a typhoon adventure, whether you like it or not.
Well,
You know?
sex is supposed to be sexy, so they try to sell it as much as they can in
And
the
I think
movie.
it was gearing almost towards the NC-17 route. I'm sure if they had just a few more segments, it would have qualified. You
I
know,
think yeah. Well, if they showed they did show full frontal with Margot Robbie, but she was
briefly, but that was just so
yeah, it
brief.
was just like what, and it was done,
Oh
But
yes,
but
yeah.
I mean that was, and we should talk about her performance a little bit. She's
Her
an
performance,
Australian.
I feel that kind of revolutionized a bit in a way, but it also was like kind of her starting game a bit because look, after that, she kind of took on a diverse mix of roles. But I think her role that was much more rewarding than this was, of course, I, Tanya kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, that was her best
I,
role.
Tanya is really what proved she can act, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, and I think Wolf of Wall Street still was like a good starting point because she's playing this girl from New York or New Jersey, and she has this accent, but it doesn't sound too forced, or at least to me, it didn't. And she's this woman from Australia who's nailing it, just like how so many other Aussies and British and Irishmen can nail an American accent, yet we can't nail any of their accents for shit. But I mean, isn't it so fair how some people are gorgeous looking and incredibly talented at the same time?
Oh, I
Uh,
totally agree. It's one of
that's
those things where it's like, you're just thinking, damn. And then the fact that there's a point where she tells him, oh, she wants to separate from him after having sex. I'm thinking, oh, that's harsh from someone so cute like that, you know?
well, he's got a lot of money. He can get somebody else.
Oh,
But
yeah, for sure. But I mean, even then with DiCaprio and Robbie, I even remember hearing there were some scenes in movies where there was like accidents on set, but he didn't really take offense to it. He found himself laughing, kind of thing.
accidents? What kind of accidents?
Like there was like a moment where it's like they're filming, and I think she accidentally like hit him accidentally, like wasn't intentional, you know?
Oh, yeah,
And
well, that's fine.
DiCaprio just started laughing at that kind of thing
Yeah,
because
yeah,
he's used to having women give him shit, I think, and whatnot, because all he dates is models, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
true.
and plus he just doesn't care. DiCaprio likes it when it gets wild on set, I'm sure. You
Yeah.
know?
Did you know the chest beating that was actually improvised?
Yeah, I knew that. They
Yeah.
talk about improvised. That was the perfect improvisation for improvisation. It was just it glorified more of like the brilliance. It glorified the persona, and it glorified like just how there was faithfulness and all of what it took for Belfort to become who he was, even though he was a criminal, a madman, someone very wealthy. But at the same time, the writing in this movie is in depth with also finding its comedy approach. It also knows how to have the twists. It knows how to, and even the fact that I even talked about the ratios of the swear words, I'm thinking does like it's like that. It's like Martin Scorsese has a formula to his swears. He's like that's probably why he improvised it, because it's like a script. Then it's like boom, boom, like F word this, F word this, F word this. But then when you add it, I feel like I was like thinking about the film Goodfellas, and I think Goodfellas still has more somehow, kind of thing.
Yeah, that or I think Casino has more. That one like has the most
Goodfellas
amount
or
of
Casino,
squares.
all of them fall in that route. All three.
Yeah. Yeah, would you? But this one, when you think about other Scorsese movies, I don't know if I'd rank it like real high above his list.
I
But
agree.
it's a very good film.
But
Like
what
I,
are like what's the one Scorsese film that you always go out of your way for? Because I'll tell you mine. For some reason, it's always been The Departed for me. For some reason,
Raging Bull and Goodfellas, but we'll go with Raging Bull.
yeah, I understand.
I think that movie's a beautiful depiction of toxic masculinity.
Oh yeah,
That I'm trying to write an article on, but to be honest, I just can't find the words for it.
Mean Streets. It's another
Mean
one.
Streets is a real good one. I own that one. Yeah,
Oh
that
yeah,
was like his first big sort of
and
collaboration.
talk about movies, one that's very least violent. Oh my god, I love this film, Hugo. You know,
Hugo, yeah,
I love, even though
yeah,
that's completely
that was
off.
a kids' film, and that
Yeah,
was, and even Scorsese, and it was great. It was a kids' film about the history of cinema.
yeah, and I'm like, if there's anyone that can make a film about history of cinema, it's definitely Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, because who directed Trip to the Moon, which was the movie that,
It was like the thing that was Guillaume Lumiere and all those people.
yeah. So that was a great movie. George Méliès is who it was, and
Mm-hmm.
he was a French illusionist, a sort of a magician, if you will, and he used his magic to sort of create, the whole sequences in the movie, especially the famous sequence where they shoot out of a spaceship into the moon's eye, and the moon makes that big face. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
that was that was a beautiful film about movies actually, and
I agree.
discovering them, and about like the heartbreak when things don't work out with your filmmaker, because it
I
was
agree.
yeah.
I agree. And even a little back on Wolf of Wall Street, I kind of realized in Wolf of Wall Street, you could see a lot of the traits of Scorsese into Wall Street. Like even in the opening of it reminded me a little bit of how The Departed opened, where it like opened with a setting of something happening, then
Mhm.
jumping into narration of what's about to happen or what's about to be evolved. Like Scorsese has always had a knack for bringing his approaches to his films about what the audience is about to get into, then bringing it back from the perspective of one main character. It's almost like Departed. It opened with mobsters in Boston and jumping into Jack Nicholson narrating kind of
Yeah,
thing. Same with this one of Leonardo DiCaprio narrating. It set the scene about like both of them set the scenes for what you're about to get into kind of thing.
right, yeah. I mean even Goodfellas in the beginning, you
Yep.
have you have damn it, I can't remember the actor's name, but you had a guy in a trunk, and they stabbed him to death. And then from there, you have Henry Hill's voice come up and say, "Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a gangster."
Mhm.
Cut to Frank Sinatra singing, cut to the Goodfellas title, and then you kind of get the blueprint of what this movie's going to be.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's going to be a fun ride in crime, but
Oh yeah.
and it's probably the most accurate movie about gangsters that existed. But Wolf of Wall Street is what we're talking about, and I feel like this movie exaggerated things.
It
So
does.
then, yeah, so then it could get laughs, and I can't
It
blame it for
does.
doing that.
And like exaggerates it even exaggerates the scene where Belfort gets abusive. It exaggerates a lot of things with everything they do in a way, kind of
Well,
thing.
yeah, and I mean they exaggerate it because that way you keep the scenes interesting, you keep the action going, and you kind of make your audience go, "Did that really happen? Is that true?" And if you can kind of sustain their attention through that, it's sort of worth doing it.
And I even remember at the time DiCaprio was asked in an interview if he felt awkward watching the movie of his parents, and he would laugh because he was getting close to 40 at the time. Be like, why would it bother me? I'm almost 40. And then by
Uh,
that point, he's already done a lot of messed up shit, kind of thing in
Damn.
his
He was
movies.
almost 40. I'm going to be 40 in like 3 years. How sad is that?
Oh, you're still young. You're still young. But like what I mean by DiCaprio had already done a lot of heavy type stuff by then. He's already done multiple 3-hour movies. But even before his fame days, he did the Basketball Diaries where he plays a giant drug addict. So it's like this dude's already been exposed to a lot, so he knows what he's doing.
Well, it was a great role for him, the Basketball Diaries.
It was, especially at that young age. Like a movie like that to help get his career out there for something so realistic, you know? I mean, he was with Mark Wahlberg. People knew Mark Wahlberg more back then than him.
He was with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah, they were both the twin. They were the friends on the basketball team.
Oh, shit.
The bad influence friends. And people knew Mark Wahlberg more, but they didn't know Leo quite yet.
Right. And that was, they also had Lorraine Bracco from.
Played the mom.
She was from Goodfellas. She played Karen, and she's also, of course, a psychiatrist and or therapist. I don't know if she provides the pills or not. And The Sopranos.
I feel Sopranos is like her most revolutionary role, despite it being a TV series. That's where you see the most of her all these years.
Well, her character goes through a lot in that show, and there's that brutal rape scene with her, which is just awful. I mean,
things like that are revolutionized, I feel, off of films of Scorsese sometimes, you know?
Well, here's the thing with Martin Scorsese. You see a lot of movies that copy his style, but they don't quite nail it because it's not them. It's not them doing it. But here is another example where this is a Martin Scorsese movie because he takes the events that happen in real life, ranks them up to a 10, and he is able to create sequences through his camera work and through Thelma Schumacher's editing that keeps you hypnotized for about 3 hours. Because, I mean, most comedies, you lose the audience after an hour and a half, but this one goes for 3 hours.
Oh, yeah. 3 hours of all kinds of twists, adventures, drug usage, disasters, all kinds of types of incriminating scenarios that are added layers of laughter to the very max, even with narrations that make you laugh as well.
Well, yeah, and that's not the first time he used narration. He used narration in Casino to the point where, remember, they killed Joe Pesci when he was in mid narration. He's like, "I'm going to do something," and that's when they hit him in the back with a bat.
Oh, Joe Pesci!
He got in the middle of a narration, and they hit him with a bat, and like in his narration, he made a sound as if he got hurt. And that's when his character dies. Sorry, spoilers to Casino.
Oh, who cares? They could find these movies on streaming, I'm sure, a majority of them.
Yeah.
They've been out for years,
Yeah, or you could see Casino on television, on cable, where they take out all the swears.
Yeah, surprisingly, all these years, they never really played Wolf of Wall Street on cable TV, but I wonder if it's because of all the swear words in that movie that made them be like, no, let's not put this on TV very much, because the editing of it would be stupid, you know?
Yeah. Well, so for Wolf of Wall Street, after 10 years, how do you think it holds up?
I think we have a majority of people who remember it very well, like myself. They have a majority of people who kind of don't think about it because I think, we've seen so many projects since then. I mean, Martin Scorsese, his project after this was kind of forgettable after Wolf of Wall Street kind of thing.
Which one was that?
That was Silence.
I like Silence, actually.
I liked it too, but it didn't get it's almost that, to me, it's almost like that movie was like his toning down a bit after Wolf of Wall Street in a way, kind of.
Well, it was him exploring religion, which he explores before. I mean, I'm not really a religious guy, but I really enjoyed the Passion of the Christ, or the Temptation.
Yeah, and that's coming to the Siskel in Chicago. I kind of want to revisit it.
I think it was called The Last Temptation of Christ.
Yeah, that's right. Last Temptation of Christ. Yes, but
yeah,
I do think Wolf of Wall Street is going to have its memories, but I think people have held its appreciation probably from 2013 all the way up until 2016. After 2016, I never really heard many talk about it much, kind of thing. But I feel like that's also because, Leonardo DiCaprio went to do The Revenant and whatnot, kind of thing. People started thinking about when is he going to win his Oscar. So I think, now that he won the Oscar for The Revenant, kind of thing. I feel like Wolf of Wall Street is still a classic, but I don't think people are going to sadly revisit it as often, kind of thing. You know?
I don't know. A lot of people still refer to the movie here and there, and I think it's a fun film to revisit for anybody to see. I mean, it's a movie that I don't know if it seems to get mixed reactions instead of a lot of love, but from what I've seen through the internet culture, people have really kind of taken a liking to the film.
I agree.
Yeah, but then I mean, this movie does teach some bad lessons though.
Oh, it does.
And
It is a bad influence. Like when I saw this movie, I'm thinking, no, you can't let your kids watch it. No, don't watch this with your parents
well,
unless you feel
they
embarrassed. You know?
they can't see. Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing: it'll give the kids a bad idea because although Jordan Belfort went to jail, he made it sound like it wasn't that bad in jail, And then at the end, in real life, he still had his money,
Oh
and
yeah.
and if you think about Jordan Belfort in real life, this guy went to prison for a while. He lost his wife and his kids, but he still kept his money, and he has a major Hollywood director, Martin Scorsese, make a movie about his life.
Oh yeah.
So things kind of didn't work out that bad for him in the end, and it kind of makes you go, boy, these guys got off easy in these films. So they get off that easy, just a little slap on the wrist for breaking a few laws and ripping some people off. I think Belford went to a white collar prison, so I don't think the punishment was enough for what he did. But
I agree. Like this movie is kind of
goes.
I feel like this movie has the ending where it's kind of like intended to like make you not have a proper understanding of what ended, but it just kind of has like that ending that makes you think, oh, life moves on despite all the negativities that happened. It tries to end in such a pleasant way.
It does.
You could tell that Jordan has to adapt to the life of being a typhoon to like being a normal spokesperson. You know. And then I just thought to myself, how's this going for him? Because a lot of the sell me the pen tactic that he uses in the very beginning of the film, no one's figuring out how to do it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they don't know how to. Well, and except there was that one guy who lived with his mom who pumped weights who knew how to do it.
Oh yeah,
and
that's such a fun movie. But I like that. Like one thing that came to my mind though, like with that film, also was like how he's narrating about each character. Like this guy made his money selling weed. This guy made his money selling. This guy stole whatever he get his hands on, mostly weed.
Yeah. One thing that I found that was oddly non-existent in the plot were the children. Like you see Jordan's daughter in like one scene, and they reference them. Like you could see that Margot Robbie's like pregnant with another kid coming in.
Oh yeah,
but which
I remember that.
Yeah, which really makes you go like kind of shocked when he punched her in the gut. He could have punched the baby for God's sakes.
I know, right? It's like I'm thinking, no wonder why she's like, you're not gonna have my kids,
right?
Because she felt they were both their kids, but it's like the behavior he does, no way he can have those.
Oh, he's a raging drug addict.
Oh yeah, especially with how he already takes the kid out to the car and is like, get in the car, we're gonna go for a ride.
Right.
And like, that failed.
I mean, it was important they had that scene so you actually knew there were children and there were lives being affected. Because otherwise, you didn't really get that feeling. You just felt like this guy was getting away with whatever he wanted.
That car scenario failed for him badly. You notice because look, the garage closed on it and she hit it with a golf club.
Right, absolutely.
That movie is just a ride of success, a ride of damages, and it all comes together in like a pure Scorsese epic that is remembered by many. But I do wish that it would get more appreciation than what it gets today. But it made tons of money. It got like 5 Academy Award nominations.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it won very much though. And even that year with American Hustle didn't win as much as it probably should have.
Right. Well, American Hustle, I looking back, I didn't think that movie was that great.
It was average, but that was like a year where you had tons of movies at once and the movie theaters just stomped at Christmas time.
I remember watching what was the movie called that we just said it was called? The Young Hustler?
The American Hustle.
American Hustle, yeah. I remember seeing American Hustle and Wolf of Wall Street on the same day. And I remember liking Wolf of Wall Street more than American Hustle, although American Hustle had a higher Rotten Tomato score. So
I remember,
that goes to show you don't always look on Rotten Tomatoes to
I,
make your
I
decision based on a score.
I watched 3 movies that week. They were a day apart from each other. Walter Mitty came first. American Hustle came second. Wolf of Wall Street came third. And for me, I'm thinking it was a better decision for Wolf of Wall Street to come third because I'm like, oh, this is the typhoon of that overcomes the first 2 films, you know?
Yeah.
And that was a wild time for sure. But man, I kind of miss those days at the movie theater a little bit now, you know? Kind of.
Yeah.
As when going to movies, we're kind of joyful, and it still is joyful. But going back though, I'm kind of at the point where I feel if I were to come to a conclusion with this, I think Wolf of Wall Street is definitely still a classic. It definitely holds the nostalgia of Scorsese, and it definitely gives us. It's something to be revisited if you've seen it before. If never watched it, you probably definitely should or revisit it before Killers of the Flower Moon, because bear in mind, this is 10 years after, and Leonardo DiCaprio has not done a film with Martin Scorsese since Wolf of Wall Street kind of thing. So it's like they're going from chaotic Wall Street galore to a murder mystery now. And they're doing a murder mystery again about 13 years later after Shutter Island.
Another murder mystery.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that is Killer of the Flower Moon. We'll see how it turns out. I mean, making it 3.5 hours seems a little.
I think he worked on that movie for so long, which was the thing.
Uh-oh.
Your mic is off.
Yeah, I know.
You all right?
Hang on.
Mike.
Hello? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can't see you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. I don't know what happened. Edit audio at what the heck? Oh, here we go. What is this doing? It's freezing. It won't let me turn on the camera. All right.
Let's pick up the phone and start dialing.
I'm trying, but it won't. It's gone. My picture won't show up. I won't show up. I don't know what happened.
Just trying to entertain some. I can see you now. Hi.
There we go.
We're good. The phone is dialed.
There we go. Yeah, I did. I gave them the deal that they'll appreciate for a long time.
I know.
But literally. I don't know. I think we should wrap things up. What do you think? So
I agree, and we'll probably be back, maybe do a segment on another film very soon. We got screenings coming up. You can follow me at moviesofdark.com and also follow my good friend Mike of YPA Reviews. And we are both critics of Chicago Indie Critics, and we will catch you next time.
That's right. And guys, if you want to see a underrated comedy, come on. Or I would say not underrated, but rated comedy. You can't go wrong with Wolf of Wall Street.
No, so pick up the phone and start dialing and figure out when to watch it.
That's back in the days when they had movie phone. We don't have that anymore.
Oh, I think that still exists, but they don't update it. You know?
Oh, really? Oh,
well, I mean, kind of like Fandango. Fandango is still a thing, but no one really likes Fandango.
Now I got to see if that still exists.
I think you make me want to go back to days of movietickets.com.
Movie phone. Tickets and more, yeah, but Fandango has got the best of them.
Yeah, but a lot of theaters want you to use their own sites now, I feel. You know?
Yeah.
Especially with how many people they got working on those now, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look, I mean, this is not in tune, but you better start. I will tell you guys a little bit of a spoiler. Killer of the Flower Moon will open in some IMAX locations. Not everywhere, but some locations. So honestly, maybe start checking your IMAX listings and hope that Killer of the Flower Moon is going to play there, because that'll probably be worth it maybe in that format. But who knows? It'll only really appeal to me if it's a certain format to go to it.
Is it filmed in IMAX?
I maybe or may not be, but if it did, they probably didn't share that yet.
Right. I don't know. I think it might have been filmed in digital because Scorsese switched to that, and it was George Lucas who persuaded him to do that. Thanks, George. But
damn it, George.
Yeah, I mean, well, he persuaded it because he basically said when he went on stage, films are just tools, just like digital is, and that kind of made Scorsese reconsider things. And I think if I were to be correct, Wolf of Wall Street was filmed digitally.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, guys, have a good night.
Guys, but let's wrap this fucker up.
Oh, yeah.
Tarek, thank you for coming on. You can find Tarek's reviews at movieswithtarek.com, and you can find my reviews at ypareviews.com, and the YPA stands for You'll Probably Agree. All right, folks. Thanks a lot.
Have a good weekend.